Hi, everyone. I am Violet de Ayala, the founder of FemCity, and I'm so excited for today's conversation. I love when we have our experts join me on these conversations that we have through our panels. And we're live streaming into Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So if you're watching, feel free to join our conversation. You can ask questions, you can add aha moments, you can give us some love. We'd love for you to just participate. And we do have some already in the classroom too. So I see you, Angela and Molly. Thank you so much for being with us today. All right, so today we're going to talk about money, mindset, and momentum, redefining wealth for women. And this is a really great conversation to have. I feel like we're kind of closing in on the year. I can't believe it's like mid-year already. We're having this conversation. So I'm a huge believer in having the conversations about money so that women get more and more comfortable about talking about money so that they can increase also their revenue, their income, and the way that they connect to money. So I have Carrie and Sarah and Renia with me today. They're from our FemCity Founders Program. They are our featured experts. They're our go-to women when it comes to business and helping mentoring our community. So Carrie, let's start with you. She's also our FemCity North Orlando president. Carrie, if you could just share a couple of sentences about who you are for those femmes that don't know.
I'm Carrie, Flynn. My company's name is Virtual Simplicity, and I am a marketing strategist and consultant. My great passion in life is helping women who run professional service businesses figure out what to do for marketing and actually do it on a consistent basis to grow their businesses. So I'm really happy to be here. Talk about this is a topic I love to talk about. So
I love that. I love it. Thank you so much, Carrie. I'm so happy you're here. Let's go to Renia, who I often call Queen. It's an inside joke between the two of us, but take it away.
I will take it. I am Renia Carsillo. I'm the founder of Realign Consulting, where we help founders and marketing teams find sustainability, not just growth. And I'm really excited to be here. I love this topic.
Thank you. Thank you. And Sarah Sparks.
Yes, I'm Sarah Sparks. I am a soul. I'm a visionary and abundance mentor. So I guide powerful women through the in-between. So the space between who they were and who they're becoming. And I help them embody their true identity and align their life, business, and wealth with their soul. So that's the take I'll be sharing today.
Awesome. Such a well-rounded, I love how all three of you are just a well-rounded approach to what we're going to talk about. All right, let's start with Carrie. So Carrie, you shared a little bit about how you love this conversation, you love this topic. What limiting beliefs around money did you have to overcome? And the reason why I'm asking that, and I also want to know, like, how did you shift out of them? The reason why I'm asking that is because I find that so many women struggle with that part. You know, it's easy for you to be born as a millionaire and to maintain your millionaire status, but that's not the norm, right? That's not what everyday women are experiencing. We really do have that limiting belief around us often. So how did you navigate that, and how did you shift out into a better connection with money?
Well, it's funny. I have a really interesting background of becoming an entrepreneur in general. I was a public school teacher for 15 years. So I had, and I also grew up in a family where both of my parents were in like financial spaces. So my dad was an auditor and my mom is in real estate. She had a banking degree. So, but I still have a lot of like scarcity mindset around money, but in particular, when I started moving out of being a teacher and into being an entrepreneur, I think I really had a lot of limiting beliefs around what was possible for me in terms of money. And I think part of that is because I have a tendency to attach a lot of control around money. I think money is a really great conductor of energy. And I think I just happen to attach a lot of that kind of controlling energy. And so I really limited myself on what was possible for me in my own business for a long time. And then I also oftentimes would put my own money mindset kind of limitations onto my clients and wouldn't position my pricing appropriately when it needed to be positioned maybe a little higher than it should be, because I was assuming that they were going to think it was too much money. And so the biggest thing I've done for myself, honestly, to overcome that is get a lot of support and coaching. I've done a lot of therapy work and coaching work around this because truly, it was a me thing. It was not anybody else experiencing that. And once I realized, and and I had experiencing with like hitting certain milestones financially in my business. And then I did that work mentally and with my therapist. It helped me a lot to overcome it. So I'm a lot more confident now in my ability to, pitch myself at certain spaces where, 9 years ago, I would have been super afraid to do that.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that it's a journey and a process and that you still have those thoughts. You're still kind of working on it, because I feel like so many times women in our community will say, oh, I feel a lot better. I feel great. I got rid of that scarcity mindset. And then the next day something will happen and then they feel really upset with themselves because they're back to where they kind of were, maybe a little bit better. So I love that you shared that authentic, vulnerable, and very honest response and advice, because it is a journey. I mean, sometimes we have better days and we keep on getting better, but then we do have these triggers that will bring us back into kind of like a poverty mindset or kind of shift us down. And I think that's part of the process, and it's okay. It's normal. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because, you see those ads on Instagram. It's like, I can teach you how to make, millions of dollars. And then people get upset when it doesn't happen for them overnight. It's a journey. So I love that you shared that. Thanks so much,
I will
Carrie.
say that it doesn't, it's not like I've solved it. I will say, you're going to different levels of your journey, and you encounter what that looks like at each stage. So it's not a destination, I would say, is perfect.
Yeah. And Renia, I was going to ask you what your definition of money and wealth is, but perhaps you want to also add part of your journey as well, if you have any other advice as well for those women that are really struggling to kind of come to terms with their limiting beliefs, and how to shift out of that so they can get into a better state with their finances.
Yeah, I mean, this was the story of my life. So I grew up in the kind of Central Florida poverty where we were worried about groceries and how you clothe people. Not, I think in a kind of Central Florida that I think most people think of more like Mississippi and Alabama than they think about Central Florida. So I was the first person in my family to really encounter some of these issues, where went to college and I started making money really young, and I thought that money would make me happy. And so I was 22 years old and the vice president of a top 5 bank in the US, making into the 6 figures. And I was tremendously unhappy. And it kind of blew up my brain. Like, wait a minute, I have the money now. I'm supposed to be happy. And so I had to redefine what wealth really meant for me, really pretty early. And I thought it was financial freedom. And that's what I would tell people for a long time. And then I realized that I could get myself financial freedom pretty easy by blowing things up, because I knew how to live off of rice and beans, because that's what I lived off of growing up. And rice and beans is still pretty cheap even today. But what I realized what I was after and how I now define wealth is financial ease. I wanted to not be making decisions solely because of money. That's what makes the difference for me. And to me, I feel wealthier and wealthier the less I think about money when I make key decisions. And that's really what I am always after. Can I make these decisions from my heart, from my gut, in my community, rather than from a place of having to think about money? And that's true in my business. It's true in our personal life. And the cool thing is once I defined what that was for myself, I actually needed a lot less money than I thought I needed. I thought in my head that I needed millions of dollars and then I would be safe, right? That's not actually what happened. Once I could figure out what is enough money so that I can have that kind of ease, so I can make my decisions from a place of strength where money is not the first thing. Because when you don't have any, it is the first thing. People who tell you not to make decisions based on money have money.
Right.
That's as someone who comes from poverty, I want to say if you don't have any money, you know that money is part of every decision, right? It is tremendous privilege to be able to think about other things first. But you can shift that. And once you start to figure out, okay, what is enough to make the next step closer to that? And what is enough to make the next step closer to that? And think about it as ease instead of a dollar figure. For me, that's really what transformed everything. And then I always just want to give a like plug to the work of Profit First, because in business, that's what really flipped my script, was thinking about a business as a place to make profit and impact before thinking about my expenses. And so those two things, really like thinking of it as ease instead of freedom, and thinking of it as profit in my business instead of all of my expenses first. Really, those two things flipped the script for me.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that, all of what you just shared, because I find that it's very easy for people to give you advice when they have money. Like what you said, if you have money, people don't recognize like the struggle, but when you're in it, when you're down and you can't figure out how to make ends meet, it's very difficult to have clarity as to what the next step is, because you're so desperate. And that's when you make the wrong decision, because you're so focused on, I just need to figure out how to make it so that my kids can eat, or I have roof over my head. So I love that you shared that. And then the perspective of just changing it and having it just be an energy, because really what you're saying is money is energy. It's not
Yes.
only the tangible aspect of money, but it's the opportunities, it's the abundance around you. That is true wealth. So I love that perspective. I love this question. So Sarah, I was going to ask you another question, but I love if we stick to it, or if you want to go ahead and add your take on it, because I know you have your own journey and your own story to share as well.
I feel like I'm in it right now, though, so I'm not certain I have it, but because I was born with it, and I was born later with my family, so everything just came very easy to me. And then I made my own. But I also, the thing that I would like to share is that I used to believe money made me less spiritual. And so I healed that by realizing that money amplifies my soul's purpose, not detracts, or is that the right word? Like takes away from it.
Yeah.
So.
I think what you shared, Sarah, I have so many women that I work with that they struggle with that conversation, where they feel like if they make money, it means that they're greedy. It means that they are not doing good work in this world. It means that in their minds, they've connected the two together. So I think that's also a very normal process for many women, is to connect that with something that's not, as you said, it's not a spiritual place. Instead, like changing it and making it so that you recognize that connection can be that you can profoundly give more. You can then support your family more. So I love that. So let's talk about practical financial habits or tools that you've used to build momentum, because we've talked about mindset. We've talked about, how to change the way that you view money, how to view it as an energy. You all three have shared kind of your story as well as to where you are today. Let's talk about what are some of those habits that you formed, or those tools that you've used to build momentum, because I think that that's like the next kind of thing to tackle. I know for myself, I've been open about my story, living on food stamps, being on welfare, and how to navigate out of that. And for me, it was definitely mindset. I didn't have funds at the time. It was like been 20 years, 30 years, but I didn't have access to therapy. I would have loved that. That would have been awesome. But doing that work on my own and trying to figure out like how to get out of that funk that I was in, because I really didn't think that there would be anything more for me. I thought that this was it. I was just going to live on food stamps and welfare forever. But what were those practical habits that you all used to get out and to develop that momentum? For me, it was working with the United Way. They had a program to help you budget. And it was the first time I actually had someone work on that with me. And also like looking at my expenses and kind of determining what, kind of like looking at money a different way. And then from that point, reading a lot of self-help books, reading a lot of books about wealth, Napoleon Hill, blah, blah, blah. That's what helped me to navigate out. But what helped you all? Let's do it with Carrie, and then we'll go Renia and Sarah.
Well, I would say this has been, like, as the other ladies have mentioned as well, this has been a lifelong kind of issue for me. And I was not a child of poverty, but we were definitely like, I would say like your traditional lower middle class family in the 80s and 90s. But I didn't really know anything about how to budget, especially becoming a business owner where you're not having the money just like managed for you in your check every month. So I really didn't know how to do that well. I had the basic concepts. So, and my husband is very like free spirited. And so he's definitely that's not his like strong suit, I would say. Like, so I'm more aligned with that, but I ended up going and hiring someone I met at a conference about 3 or 4 years ago, and they're financial coaches, and they primarily work with people who, have some debt, and they're looking to kind of get their budget back in aligned and things like that. And it was very practical things, but it wasn't in a scarcity mindset way, which is what I really did not want to get involved in coaching. That was like going to tell me I needed to suffer in order to in order to get my act together financially. I really was not a fan of that. So they were not about that. So I learned so much from how to just budget and have a plan of attack, which was really helpful. But I also really encourage like books on Audible. If you don't like to read the physical books, like you said, that has helped me a lot too, to just actually digest information about it. But having support, even if you can't invest in one-to-one coaching like I did, there are lots of membership style options where you can get that support and maybe not have to invest as a large amount of money. I cannot recommend that enough.
I think that's a blessing of today's world, is that we have access to so many others as well. Like I follow your Rich BFF on Instagram. I think there's another one called Mrs. Dow Jones, and circulating my whole like just money discussed around me over and over and over again, and investments, and that really helped, continues to help me, having that information around me constantly, so it becomes very habitual in the way that I think.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, Renia.
Yeah, so I think there's like 3 really practical tools that have been tremendously helpful to me. One is being persistent about getting a banking app that automated savings. So automatically rolled up purchases to the next dollar into a high yield savings account, automatically organizes funds into a budget that you have preset. Because a lot of people, I feel like when they're first trying to get control of how things flow with their money, taking away choice on the days where you're not feeling strong is the easiest way to do it. And even when sometimes I at first had to go back and transfer things back because I didn't have enough pennies to put into the savings account, right? What it did was it was a forcing function to start learning the habit and seeing that accumulation, even when it was just a few dollars at a time. And then when I did have a little more money to save, I took that same mindset and I started using an app called Acorns. And that's just what I started with. There's all kinds of them now that automatically rolls whatever you pre-select, either to the next dollar or a certain amount every time you make a purchase, into an investment account. And that helped me start learning about investing and saving for retirement for myself, which was very, very important for me. So like automating some of those decisions is super important for people who are employed. Like we know when you are pre-enrolled in 401k rather than asked to make selections, most people participate at a way higher rate. So like set yourself up on a day you're feeling strong with your decisions. And those things automatically happen for you as much as possible. And then the second thing for me was hiring help rather than getting coaching. And I want to say this, like, I love coaches. I do some coaching myself. I have 3 different coaches. I believe in coaching, but I think a lot of young entrepreneurs or new in business entrepreneurs tend to go to coaching instead of hiring help because it's safer.
Yeah.
And what you really need is to be able to leverage yourself, and that happens through hiring help, and will accelerate you faster into making more money. And I know it's very scary, but I really do believe in, like, you maybe need some help. And then I tell people all the time, get into community. I know we're not supposed to say this, but I'm a big believer in things like trading services and bartering and things like that. When you don't have the actual dollars, and you only do that if you are in great community with other people. You can't do that I mean, people do, but it's much more difficult to do if you're only online. So get into community with people, get connected with people, and you will find that you can help each other in ways that don't require trading dollars that you might not have at that point.
I love that. So when I started FemCity, I bartered for the website, and I bartered our legal, like our trademark. I bartered as many things as possible to get us started. I'm a huge believer in bartering, even still to this day. The reality, it's trade for value. I mean, that's all you're doing. You're just trading the time. I love that. And I love that you mentioned those apps that you use. I remember during the pandemic, I was like, okay, I'm going to take the time to start learning about investments. And every time I received like an extra, I don't know, for my birthday or, whatever, $50, it would just show up. I would take that money and just invest in something. And that got me into the habit of like investing every week and just looking to see like where it's going, how it's growing, like all those things. So I love that you mentioned the automation of things, of those apps that you use. I'm going to actually take a look at it and see if my kids want to use it. But I absolutely love that. Yeah, that it all works. Angela's asking, who do you follow on Instagram? So one is called My Rich BFF, and the other one is Mrs. Dow Jones. And then another one is called Her First 100K, I think. But I'll take a look at them, Angela, and I can post it in the Facebook group as well. All right, Sarah. Yeah. Any advice from you?
Yes. So I keep it really simple. I track income daily with gratitude. So I even just print off a calendar from like Word, and I just mark down everything, like what's coming in each day. And I noticed like what you focus on grows. So if you have coming in, then all of a sudden you get more clients, you get more payments, you get a surprise abundance in Venmo, like yesterday. It's like, as the money comes in, I bless the money as it flows in, and also when I flow out. Like I celebrate when I pay taxes because I actually get to pay taxes, for years I didn't because I didn't make enough, So, and then making aligned, not fear-based decisions. So yeah, that's practical advice for me. So
I love that. For those that are watching, we did a class. It's free in our FemCity classroom. How to create your money guide. I think I just taught it like a month ago or 2 months ago, but that's another really great class to take. Which talks about what Sarah's talking about. It's just kind of redirecting your focus, but it will guide you in there. Pretty much what she said. It's there too. I love that, Sarah. And I was going to mention something about when we start. Going back to Renia, hiring someone. So my first hire was a bookkeeper. That was my first hire. And that was something, even when I didn't have any money, that was the thing that I kept because I needed someone to help me managing the money for FemCity when we started. So, all right. So, all right, so let's wrap up. Carrie, thank you so much for all that you've shared. For those that want to join and connect with you, where can they find you?
So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. That's my social media channel. So if you just search Carrie Flynn, that is a great place to connect. And our website's virtualsimplicity.co if you're curious to know more about what I do.
Great. Thank you so much. Renia?
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I do most of my interacting, or we love people to take our brand archetype quiz at realignyourstrategy.com. It just helps you figure out what the right strategy is for you based on what you're trying to achieve, not based on random business advice.
I love that. I love quizzes. I'm going to totally head over there.
Me too. I'm obsessed with quizzes, y'all. If anyone has a quiz, you can send it to me and I will take it because I love them all.
I love quizzes and worksheets. Like my whole life, like if I could just do those two things, I just did the worksheet for July. It just brings me so much joy. I don't know why. Just like all that self-diving, like it's just like going in. I'm like, I love it. It's not so pretty all the time. Sometimes it's, going all in brings tears, but it's always so good. Sarah, where can Femmes find you to connect and follow your journey?
Well, if you want to discover your core wound around money, and I developed a quiz, you can go on to sarahsparks.love. And I just have to say one thing that is really, like, if there's anything you can anchor yourself into, if you don't even want to talk about money, but just money in the hands of soul-aligned women is a revolution. And so when we heal part. When we heal our relationship with, well, good Lord, get it together. We don't just change our bank accounts, like we change the world. So like anchor into something that's bigger than you, than just $1 or getting one more client, but like how can actually having money create that revolution that you really want?
So good. So good. I love that. And Carrie added another recommendation for Instagram is your financial therapist. That was one of her clients. And then Molly mentioned the Instagram I was talking about. It's her first 100K, Tori Dunlap. Thank you so much, Molly. I totally forgot her name. So those are a couple of accounts to follow. But thank you so much, ladies. I so appreciate you taking the time of your day and sharing your wisdom with us. And for those that want to learn more about FemCity, head over to femcity.com. Bye.